Hello and welcome. So today, guys, I want to share with you or speak to you about 10 fragrance houses that I consider to be terribly underrated. These perfume brands have been around for quite some time. Some of them are newer than others, but they're all pretty much established, and I just don't think that they get the credit that they deserve. They do have quality fragrances. They do offer a very pleasant experience. Everything from the packaging to their customer service. It's just an exceptional experience altogether. But at that, they still don't get the credit or the attention that they deserve. Sometimes I feel that they are underrated because we as content creators and influencers in general do not speak about them as much. Maybe because, of their marketing efforts. I don't know. But what I do know is that these are 10 fragrance houses that do deserve your attention. So today I am going to share with you these 10 fragrance houses, give you a little bit of detail about them. And also, as I do, I will let you know my top pick from each fragrance house. The fragrances that I have selected today are perfect for the spring and even upcoming summer seasons. So if you want to give them a try, I will have everything linked in the description box for you, as well as wherever I have a discount code, I'll be sure to make a note of that. So let's go ahead and jump right in because we have quite a bit to cover. But before we do so, if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi, and I'm your fragrance concierge because I'm totally committed to creating the best fragrance experience for you. I upload videos multiple times a week, and on this channel, we love to talk about all types of fragrances. So if that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go, fam. So the first fragrance house that I want to discuss with you today is Blend Oud. Blend Oud is an Italian fragrance house that was established in 2014. And in their words, the brand focuses on using rare, noble ingredients, especially oud, known as the liquid gold of fragrance, for its deep, resinous, and spiritual aroma. What I love about this fragrance house is that their DNA to me seems to be like timeless. There's like a mystique around their different fragrances, and I own, of course, several of their bottles, and they're all very different fragrances, and they all do have oud, but the oud is very smooth, it's silky, and the feel of their fragrances, no matter what, always has like a mystique tied to it. It's very timeless, it's elegant, and it's also very contemporary. Within the Blend Oud fragrance house, of course, there are quite the number of fragrances that I could have pulled, and I have talked about just about all of them here on the channel, but I would have to say that my top pick right now is definitely Mazyon. Now, Mazyon is a fragrance that is a white florals musky fragrance. This fragrance is indeed very musky. But again, the musk is very nicely done, even though there is a touch of an animalic quality to the fragrance. But there is just something about it that like balances out the fragrance and gives it, again, that air, that mystique, that air of like timeless elegance that I just can't explain. That is so like tied into the DNA of this fragrance house because I find it in just about every fragrance. It is very ambery and it is a tad woody. But at all that, this is a fragrance that you could pull for any season of the year and which is pretty versatile. You could probably use it for any and every occasion. The next fragrance house that I want to bring to your attention is Carthusia. Now, Carthusia is a fragrance house that is also based out of Italy, but it is out of Capri, Italy, the island of Capri. And it is a fragrance house that I discovered during my first trip there. And ever since the first moment that I sniffed their fragrances, it has been a love for me. Their fragrances are just so beautiful and exquisite. For me, the feel that the DNA of their fragrances gives you is that of, again, like timeless glamour and elegance while enjoying the very well-known Italian charm. There is just something about their fragrances that gives you such a special, beautiful feel, like embracing your surroundings, on a beautiful summer day. It's just incredible. I also want to let you know that this is a fragrance house that has been around for quite some time because it was initially established in 1948, and to date, it is still family run and with a limited production. Now, Carthusia has so many fragrances that are just beautiful, but I have to tell you that my favorite is Amare. When I talked to you about the DNA of this fragrance house, I told you how it transports you to the island of Capri immediately. Well, I have to tell you that for me, the vibe, the feel of this fragrance, it's like you are sitting seaside somewhere. It's a sunny, beautiful day. You're sitting by the sea and you can smell that saltiness of the water, but there's a freshness in the air. It is just absolutely beautiful. This fragrance is very, very aromatic, but it also has a woodiness that gives the fragrance like a twist, like an elegant twist. It makes it versatile, a fragrance that you could dress up, you could dress down, but I think this is perfection for the spring and summer seasons, but most specifically for the summer. Incredible. It is also the perfect fragrance to take with you like on vacation or a holiday if you're going to a very warm location, regardless of if it's an island or not, as long as it's warm weather. This is definitely not a fragrance that I would ever pull during a very, very cold weather day. So I do not pull it during the fall or during the winter at all. But once spring is approaching and those initial warm spring days come in, this is a fragrance that I always look forward to. The next fragrance house that I want to discuss with you is Bharara Beauty. Now, Bharara Beauty is a fragrance house that was established in 2011, and the owners are of Indian heritage. And in their words, Bharara Beauty is a gateway to a world of enchanting memories and timeless experiences. And I have to tell you that what I do find is rather consistent in their fragrances, which is what I love about their DNA, is that in each of their fragrances, as soon as I apply it, it kind of starts to evoke memories of people, of events, of places, right, that have brought quite a bit of joy and peace to my life. So whenever I wear their fragrances, I get like a sense of calmness, of like everything is going to be okay. So on days where I'm a little bit concerned or anxious about something, right? It could be anything, right? I just spray any of their fragrances and it does have that calming effect while bringing that little bit of like joy. It almost makes you like kind of smile just a little bit when you wear their fragrances. So they are quite special. But at that, guys, I am just really, really surprised that this is a brand that I rarely, if ever, hear about. So it is terribly underrated. And the interesting thing is that their fragrances are affordable. They're not, totally, inexpensive or cheap or anything like that. They're just affordable still. For being a niche house, their fragrances are definitely ones that you can pick up without having to break the bank. So I could have picked so many fragrances from Bharara, and I have talked about this brand here on the channel before, but I have to tell you that being that we're in the spring season, and I hope that this is a fragrance that if you're interested, you can find it. I will definitely leave a link if I can find it somewhere, but my top pick definitely would have to be Sunset. Now, Sunset is a fragrance, guys, that is a gourmand. There is some sandalwood, some vanilla, and some sugar in this fragrance. And those are the notes. There are other notes, but those are the notes that are dominant to my nose. This is a very ambery fragrance that I would say has like a level 2 musk, because I barely pick up on the musk in this fragrance. At that, I also have to tell you that it is a fragrance that gives you the feel of like, you've spent the entire day at the beach, you've just been relaxing and just enjoying the beautiful day, the ocean. It's just right, that whole feel. But at the end of the day, you go back to your room or your home and you take a shower and you're ready to just, feel that freshness after a long day. And this is the fragrance that you apply when you want to go out for like an early dinner and then for some light shopping, like a stroll of light shopping after that early dinner. It is a fragrance that does perform beautifully, and it is also a compliment getter. The next fragrance house that I want to share with you today is Carner Barcelona. Now, this is a fragrance house that is based, of course, out of Barcelona, Spain, and it was initially established in 2010. Now, I do know that you've heard of Carner Barcelona because they do get a certain bit of attention, but I am telling you that for the quality, the exceptional quality of their fragrances, I think they are terribly underrated, because this is a fragrance house that as soon as we talk about spring and summer, we should be referencing one of their fragrances, because I am telling you, they are just, in my opinion, perfect. They have so many fragrances that are just incredible for the seasons of spring and summer. And what I love about the DNA of this fragrance house is that it's a very contemporary feel. While their fragrances have quite a bit of personality, some of them are more demure than others. None of them are really like full-on beast mode, at least not on my skin, because I don't think that that's the aesthetic that they're going for in this fragrance house. So let me share with you, in the words of Carner Barcelona, the art culture and effortless way of living of the Mediterranean define the personality of Carner Barcelona. So that should give you an idea of what is it that they're looking to make you feel. When it comes to Carner Barcelona, my favorite fragrance is definitely Tardes. Now, I initially had like a 30 ml, or yeah, I think it was like a 30 ml or something like that. And I ended up picking up this full bottle because that is how much I love this fragrance. This is an almond-centric fragrance with a ton of vanilla. It is sweet, but not too sweet. It is fruity, aromatic, very aromatic actually to my nose. So this is the type of fragrance that you want to pull on those days where it is very, very hot outside and you're just like looking for a little bit of like a breeze or something to like cool you down. If you want a fragrance that is going to make you feel fresh while also smelling like interestingly beautiful, this is the fragrance. This is a very non-offensive but beautifully rich kind of fragrance. You're going to be able to use it for any occasion, day or night. Please let us know if you've tried Tardes, because this is one of their top sellers, and I know that so many people love this fragrance. Please let us know your thoughts. The next fragrance house that I want to discuss with you today is Trussardi. Now, Trussardi is a fragrance house that you may or may have not heard about it, because Trussardi is really an Italian fashion house that is based out of Milan. But they've been established since 1911, I think it was. When it comes to their fragrances, though, they launched their fragrances line in the 1980s. But Trussardi is a household name in fashion. But I find that their fragrance house side, right, is kind of like neglected from us, the consumer. It seems like it's completely underrated, because when I tell you that their fragrances are just exquisite, what I love about the DNA of their fragrances is that they're very bold, they're very alluring, they're very unapologetically intense. It's like they're vibrant with life, happy to be alive. And it's just very interesting to me that this is a fragrance house that is truly, completely underrated in my opinion. Now, I've talked about this brand here on the channel before, and I've discussed with you several of their fragrances, but I have to tell you that right now my top pick from this fragrance house, and this is a very long name, this is part of the La Vie de Milano collection, and this one is the Courtyards of Castello Sforzesco. And not all of their bottles look like this, but this is the La Vie de Milano collection. And All of the bottles do look like this. They come in different colors. I've shared with you quite a number of them because I think I have like 7 of the fragrances just from this collection. That's how much I love it. But this one, this is definitely my top pick right now. This is a very ambery but rose-centric fragrance. Now this rose is not a freshly bloomed rose. It is a rose that borders a little bit on jammy. There is something a little bit jammy about this rose without making it like a dated or, you know, or a fragrance that doesn't have vibrancy, because again, the DNA of this fragrance house is all about being bold and intense and vibrant with life, just incredible. But this fragrance is also very fresh, spicy. Oh, it's very aromatic. It does have a good bit of woodiness that gives it quite a bit of personality, and it has a note of honey that has been done just exquisitely. You know, the note of honey, I've discussed it many times, is not one that I think is easy to get right. There's just something peculiar about the note of honey. But in this fragrance, it has been done and coupled with the rose and with the woodiness and that fresh spiciness and that very, very aromatic quality in an incredible way. This is a fragrance that I highly, highly recommend for the spring, summer. Actually, this is one that you could probably pull all throughout the year. But for the spring and the summer, for special events, for evening into late night occasions, this one is perfection. Let us know if you've tried any of the Trussardi fragrances and your thoughts. So the next fragrance house that I want to share with you is Masque Milano. Now, I have discussed this fragrance house and some of their perfumes here on the channel before, but I wanted to bring them to your attention today because I do think that they are terribly underrated. So they are based out of Milan, Italy, and they were established in 2012. And in their words, let me tell you, their purpose is to create perfumes with a soul, not a one-size-fits-all perfume for everyone. And I have to tell you that what I love about the DNA of this fragrance house is that it seems to me every single fragrance tells a story. It's like whenever you apply any of their fragrances, you almost feel like you understand the vision behind the fragrance because they almost like speak to your soul. There's just something very personal about each of their fragrances. So I have to tell you that my top pick for sure coming out of Masque Milano is Ray-Flection. Now, Ray-Flection, guys, is such a different fragrance. I don't know what is it about this fragrance, because let me just start by saying that there's quite a bit of aldehydes in this fragrance. It is like a truckload of aldehydes here. And I am not one that really enjoys a very, you know, like aldehydes loaded kind of fragrance, but this one, oh no, this one is just perfection. So here you are going to get like an overload, like a huge bouquet of yellow florals. I can't clearly distinguish, you know, which one is which, but I have to tell you, these are definitely yellow florals. But at that, there's also a very nicely done note of honey. Not only is there honey in this fragrance, if I recall correctly, but there's also beeswax. So the honey note is very, very present. It's also a bit warm, spicy, and it has a tad of an animalic touch to it that just balances out the fragrance completely, because if not, between the yellow florals and that honey note, it would have been a little bit too fruity, foo-foo-la-la. But with that touch of an animalic quality, it gives the fragrance so much character, so much personality. I tell you, this is a fragrance house that to me is completely underrated. I rarely hear anybody talk about Masque Milano, but the quality of their fragrances definitely warrants your attention. And when it comes to Ray-Flection, I think that this would definitely be a love for you. This is a fragrance that you could pull any time of the year, but specifically for spring and summer, oh, I think it is perfection. You could dress it up, you could dress it down. It's actually even signature scent worthy. Let us know if you've tried Ray-Flection or any of the Masque Milano fragrances and your thoughts. So the next fragrance house that I want to speak to you about today is Ormonde Jayne. Now, I'm sure that you've heard about Ormonde Jayne, but I wanted to bring Ormonde to this video because I just feel that it is terribly underrated. The quality of their fragrances, the entire aesthetic of the brand itself. I just tell you, I just don't understand why content creators and influencers, and even, just on the regular, I don't hear much about Ormonde Jayne. It's like once in a blue moon, I do see someone out there talking about Ormonde Jayne, and then they talk about a new fragrance and then they like disappear. And I tell you, this is really a brand that people are snoozing on, and I am telling you, it really does deserve so much more attention. So Ormonde Jayne was established in the year 2000, and it is based out of London, England. Now, what they're really known for is for being very innovative, inclusive, and inspiring. What I love about the DNA of this fragrance house, guys, is that there is an inherent simplicity to their fragrances. But at that, it's like there is such a richness of notes, right? While the fragrance comes across as simple as not being obnoxious or overbearing or super loud in any way, their fragrances do have like a character that evokes like an air of understated elegance, luxury, sophistication, just simplicity. It's almost like the message is that you don't have to try so hard to get that feel of luxury or feel sophisticated and elegant. But that is what the fragrance will give you, a very understated, elegant feel. So my top pick from this fragrance house is definitely Damask. Now, Damask is a fragrance that is rose-centric. But it's interesting because at the dry down, while I get the rose, what I get is an exquisite blend where all of the notes kind of like balance each other out, like all of the accords come together so nicely, not allowing the fragrance to, at the dry down, be perceived as that of rose exclusively, because that's not what I get from this fragrance. This is an aromatic, woody, musky, citrusy, beautiful rose. This is a young, crisp rose. Without a shadow of a doubt, there's nothing dated about this rose. It is so fresh. I can almost, with this fragrance in the opening, guys, I almost feel like I am sniffing a freshly bloomed rose. That is what you get here. But at that, you have that woodiness and that musk, which is like a level 2. It's very smooth, that bring like character to the fragrance. There is nothing animalic about it. There's also that fruitiness that pairs so beautifully with that rose. This for sure is a fragrance that I highly recommend for, I would say, spring, summer, and fall. This is not one that I would ever pull during the winter season, but I tell you, this is just really the fragrance that, for me, truly represents the DNA of this house, because while it comes across as a very simple fragrance, I tell you, it is just exquisitely beautiful. I will tell you that Damask has been compared time and time again with Delina, but I must also say that I really do prefer this one than Delina. There is a bit of a sharpness that I get in the opening of Delina and throughout parts of the olfactory journey that I really don't get in Damask, and that I really appreciate. There is a smoothness to this fragrance that I am telling you is just the DNA of Ormonde Jayne. There is a classy feel to this fragrance. I'm telling you, an air of elegance and sophistication that I can't explain. This is the fragrance that allows me to wear a rose-centric fragrance without being concerned about smelling kind of like dated or too mature or anything like that. Because again, the DNA of this fragrance house is about that simplicity while still having fragrances that bring the richness of the notes involved. Let us know, have you tried any of the Ormonde Jayne fragrances? Which one is your favorite? And have you tried Damask? Alright guys, so the next fragrance house that I do want to bring to your attention is one that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. As a matter of fact, we have 3 more fragrances to go, and 2 of them are fragrances from fragrance houses that I have done dedicated videos on. So there's a series here on the channel called Fragrance House Spotlight, and I have a dedicated video to speak about the Merchant of Venice. Now guys, the Merchant of Venice is a fragrance house that I absolutely love. I have quite the collection of their fragrances and none of them truly disappoint. Let me just start by saying that what I have heard from others in the past is that they wish that their fragrances would last longer on skin, etc., etc., etc. I do not have one Merchant of Venice fragrance that is beast mode or a powerhouse, but I have to tell you that that is what I appreciate, one of the things that I appreciate from the DNA of this fragrance house. I am not going to get into a lot of detail about the fragrance house itself because, again, I have a video where I give you all of the information about who they are, what they stand for, who owns it, when was it established, all of that. And I'll try to link it here. But if not, you can just enter the Merchant of Venice in the search bar of the channel and that video will come up. I also in that video shared with you my collection up to that date, and I think I ranked all the fragrances for you. But today I want to speak about Gyokuro because this is my top pick specifically for spring and summer. This is a fragrance that you just can't go wrong with. I mean, guys, yes, the bottle is beautiful, but at that, the juice, the fragrance itself is just exquisite. This is a tea-based fragrance. It opens and will be very fruity all throughout the olfactory journey, and at the dry down, that fruitiness does take a bit of a backseat to that tea. It does have a touch of a green quality to it. It is very floral, and what I love about it is that it has like a bit of an ozonic quality altogether. It's like ozonic / aquatic kind of feel. There's quite a bit of white florals in this fragrance, but in certain parts of the olfactory journey, I do clearly pick up on the tuberose. So to me, the white florals are the florals that are centric in this fragrance, but the tuberose does play a very important role. If you're not a tuberose lover, will that be a, like deal breaker in this fragrance? No, because this fragrance is not about the florals per se. To my nose, it's really about that tea note. So if you are a tea fragrances lover, this is one that you definitely want to get your nose on because you are going to love it. Now, again, as I explained when I first started to talk about the Merchant of Venice here, this is a fragrance house which is not interested. I really don't think that they designed their fragrances ever with the thought of making them beast mode. That is not what they're about. They're about the beauty and the richness and the exquisiteness of the ingredients that they have in their fragrances while making a very smooth and classy kind of finish. These fragrances, at least on my skin, are not weak. They are just very smooth. Some of them smoother than others, but this one performs beautifully. But I will tell you that while it does have a strong projection for the first, I would say 90 minutes, after that, it does become a skin scent immediately. But that skin scent is one that I get whiffs of all throughout the day because this does give me a full day wear. But it's not like you're really going to smell it strongly. Oh no, that's not what this fragrance is about. But when I tell you, this is so worth it. Incredibly beautiful fragrance. All right, so the next fragrance house that I want to bring to your attention because I think it is terribly underrated is Le Primordial, and I hope that I'm pronouncing it correctly. If I'm not, I apologize. Now, this is a French fragrance house that was established in 2015, so they're rather new compared to some of the others that I've shared with you today, and definitely compared to the one that's coming up next. But to me, this is such an incredibly exquisite fragrance house. There is not one perfume that I have tried, guys, from this fragrance house that I don't fall in love with. And I have to control myself to not buy every single perfume that they have in their portfolio because I already have a pretty large collection. But I have to tell you that in their words, okay, their focus is to create traditional premium perfumes with an ultra-modern distilling process. What I love about the DNA of this fragrance house, guys, is that when they, when they make a fragrance and they say that it is, let's say, vanilla centric, oh, they don't play. It is a vanilla centric fragrance. Like, you're going to get vanilla, intense vanilla, truly vanilla. And at that, it's not going to be overpowering or screechy or, no, it's just a smooth blend, very nicely done. But at that, it allows you to really pick up the note that they said was the centric note. Well, at that, I have to tell you that my top pick from this fragrance house, and there is Vanilla Supermassive, I think is called, that is absolutely exquisite. And there's so many others. But guys, Iris Palladium is my top pick. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you've heard about this fragrance many times already. You guys know that I had a large decant. I finished that decant. I bought the big bottle because that is how much I love this fragrance. Now, this is all about the note of iris. The fragrance is woody also, which I love, right? It balances out that iris. It is very, very powdery, not just at the dry down, but I would say midway in the olfactory journey, I start to get that powderiness clearly to my nose. And the fragrance is indeed very powdery. Although this fragrance is called Iris Palladium, and the iris is definitely, to me, the dominant note, this is really a purple florals fragrance because there is violet, there's iris, and there's lavender in this fragrance. So you have to be a true purple florals lover in order to appreciate and enjoy this masterpiece, because that is what I'm going to call it. Now, in addition to that woodiness, there is also quite a bit of vanilla, but the vanilla at no point becomes dominant. Please understand, this is truly a purple florals dominant fragrance with a very secondary star, which would be the woody notes. That is what I get. But at that, this is just exceptional. This is really a fragrance that really conveys the message of the fragrance house, where they're committed to creating a certain level of quality of fragrances using the best ingredients, because just about every fragrance that you try from this fragrance house, it will have a centric note, but at that, it's done in such a perfect way. Again, there is nothing screechy about their fragrances, although being quite powerful and intense. This is a fragrance that if you are a purple florals lover, you could probably pull off all throughout the year for any occasion, day or night. I do have a review of this fragrance. If you're interested in more details, just enter the name of the fragrance in the search bar of the channel, and those videos will come up, because I not only reviewed this fragrance here on the channel, but I have featured it several times, because that is how in love I am with this fragrance. And I just picked it up last year, I'm pretty sure in 2024. So just imagine. The next fragrance house that I want to share with you is one where I will also not go into a lot of detail, because this is a fragrance house that I have a dedicated review for. When I initially reviewed the first fragrance that I ever picked up from them, which is actually still my #1 pick from this house, when I featured or reviewed this fragrance, I did a dedicated video, because guys, that's how impressive they are. That is how impressed they had me from the beginning. So I am speaking about Santa Maria Novella. Now, Santa Maria Novella has been around for quite some time. And if I recall correctly, they started based out of like an apothecary type of setup. And from there, they became a fragrance house to this day. But I have to tell you guys that this is a fragrance house that everything that they do speaks to quality. Without a shadow of a doubt, that is what they are for. I will try and link in the description box the video that I did dedicated to that fragrance house, so that you can check all the details, because it is worthy of your time and attention. But I must say that although they've been around for quite some time, I don't think that they get the credit that they deserve. They are terribly, in my opinion, underrated for the quality of fragrances And all of their products, what they are putting out is just of exquisite quality, top quality, and they're just very underrated. So today I want to share with you yet again my top pick from this fragrance house, which is L'Iris. This fragrance, if you are an iris lover or purple florals lover, because there's iris, and if I recall correctly, there's also some violet here. This is the most realistic, intense iris violet fragrance. It's almost like you are truly sniffing the flower. Like it has freshly bloomed, it opened up, and you are sniffing it. That is what I get from this fragrance. And at that, it is smooth, it is perfection. But if there is one fragrance in this group today that borders on beast, it is L'Iris. Now, this fragrance is not just about the iris, which is truly the star of the fragrance, because there are some white florals here. In addition to that, this is a musk-based fragrance, but the musk takes a back seat to the iris, the violet, and even the white florals. There is a powdery quality to the fragrance, as to be expected from a heavy on iris type of fragrance, but that powderiness, while being very much present, it's not cloying or just a bit too much or giving you like a dated feel. No, there's nothing dated about this fragrance. Now, I do think that this is best suited for the ages of 25 plus, but this is an incredibly beautiful fragrance. And at that, although it has that powderiness, it also has a citrusy quality to it, which brings a certain degree of freshness all throughout the wear of the fragrance. This is not a freshy, no, this is truly a floral focused fragrance, but you are going to have a certain degree of airiness to the fragrance, allowing for like the perfect balance of all of the notes and accords involved. I tell you, all of their fragrances seem to strike that balance between, you know, the intensity of the fragrance itself, the notes, the accords. It's just perfection. Speaks to them being around for so long and being truly masters at what they do. I am telling you, this is a fragrance that will command attention, but you have to be one who enjoys a good iris violet fragrance that's also been coupled with beautifully done white florals. This fragrance is also a tad fresh, spicy, a bit aromatic, but not much. And it also has an earthy quality to it, which grounds all of the notes beautifully. I think it is part of that inherent balance that you find in the DNA of this fragrance house, because what I love about this fragrance house, guys, is that not only does it deliver what it promises, right? So when you read about any of their new fragrances that are about to be launched, and they talk about it and they describe it, without fail, when you receive the fragrance, that is what you're getting. So I just absolutely love the exactness or precision with which they deliver what they commit to. All right, guys, so we've reached the end of today's video, and I just wanted to come on here today and share with you again these 10 fragrance houses that I am telling you, they are terribly underrated, and I really encourage you to try. Just look at their portfolio of fragrances and pick one that really strikes your fancy as it relates to scent profile and notes, and just give it a try and let me know, because I am telling you, these are very, very much underrated fragrance houses that I just know you are going to fall in love with, not one, two, but multiple of the fragrances in their portfolio. Please let us know if you've tried the fragrances from any of these fragrance houses and your thoughts. As always, thank you so much for hanging with me today, and I will see you all in the next video.